Hello everyone! Last week we explored the first 30 levels of the Gladiator class, and now it's time to check their next door neighbors, the Pugilists. To join them, we talked to Gagaruna, who mans the receptionist desk. From there, we are sent to meet Hammond Holyfist, the Guildmaster. He is an interesting character, as he is at the time waiting for his errand boy to bring back some news about a proposition he made to a dancer. This is something we will see quite frequently through the story. This man is very focused on the ladies. Realizing that we are not the errand boy, he does promise fiercely that there is nothing indecent going on, and then gives us our first auras. This is the weapon of the pugilist, and then sends us off to beat up some innocent critters. So while I do that, how about I tell you a little bit more about the Pugilist class and the guild. The Pugilist starts at level 1 and reaches up to level 30. But it then opens up the monk class. Their weapons of choice are their auras and their fists and feet, along with using a variety of buffs and debuffs to make their enemies either weaker or yourself stronger. The Pugilist is focused on quick-moving martial combat. They use a mixture of kicks and punches to take down the enemy. Instead of one strong blow, they do multiple quick, lighter blows and weave them together into deadly combinations. This is a close combat DPS class, so as a player you will focus on weaving one attack into the next as you fight. But different from the other classes, your next action is not based on your last attack, but on the combat stance you are in at the moment, giving you a time option for several different attacks depending on which stance you're in. Most of your abilities do cause more damage from the backside, so be ready to smack some booty. After beating up the innocent critters, we are sent off to level 5. As we return at level 5, it seems we have somehow gotten injured on the way, as we are now sporting an eye patch. Hammond takes one look at us and decides it's time we learn to string our moves together into combos. For this lesson to be learned, we first must sprint around Ul'dah, picking up coins he has thrown all over the place. We run around, picking up the coins, and I honestly do wonder if these are actually used as currency in Ul'dah because they are huge. Either way, with all the coins, we return the money back to Hammond, who seems to be both excited and surprised by the amount. I don't think this was his coin to begin with. Our next mission is to go to Scorpion Crossing, where the trial stones await. We have to practice our combination on the stone and defeat the Earth Sprite that will emerge. I just love it that the Pugilists just beat up rocks for training. These aren't even special looking rocks, they're just general rocks out in the desert. But we do so, beating up the rocks and killing the sprites before returning back to the guild. This time Hammond introduces us to his assistant and one of his first students. This is Tututo. The two also hint slightly of another student having assisted, but at the time did not want to speak more about him. Now, here I take note that Hammond is coughing a lot. The man seems ill with something. Yet he sends us off to level more, so off I go, and in the meantime let me tell you a little bit about Hammond and his students. Hammond Holyfist used to be a part of the Colosseum, the one we got to know a little bit better in the Gladiator Guild, though, oddly enough, we did not do any gladiator battles in that guild. Nonetheless, he was at the time a great fighter, giving the name Holyfist, for the impressive speed and power of his punches. It is said that you couldn't even see how fast he would move. His enemy would simply go flying. As he got older, he stopped fighting the Colosseum and now runs the Pugilist Guild, where he trains young pugilists. Sometimes in the past he did find 2 Lalafell on the street and took them in. Their names are Tututo and Rurukuta, and I promise you I'm probably mispronouncing these names terribly. But just, we're going to call them Chuchu and Ruru in this video because I find their names really hard to pronounce. As we join the guild, Tutu is still around, but Ruru has left some time ago for an unknown reason. As we return at level 10, we once again meet Hammond. He instructs us to head outside the guild and practice on some training dummies. These dummies have been set up in the streets to show off the strength of the guild, and we go out there and beat up the dummies in front of a very impressed crowd, before being sent off to hone our skills even further by beating up some Kikirn in the desert. With them suitably beat up, we return, and as we come back we learn that Chuchu is having a tough time. Ruru has been missing, and with the two being saved from the street by the Guildmaster and joining the guild together, is very hard for her. But no one knows where Ruru went, so we are sent to train for another 5 levels and return stronger and wiser back to Hammond. Thankfully at level 15 our eye has healed and all is better. We this time return with a nice hat And Hammond, being very impressed, wants us to go and kill some toxic toads and bring the legs to him and Choo-Choo back at Blackbrush Station. These toads are big and hit hard, so we must make sure to stay on our feet, be quick to dodge, and hit them when we have a safe chance. We beat up the toads and take their legs and bring them to Hammond, who starts talking about how to cook them, only to be reminded by Choo-Choo about the test. As Hammond begins to explain our next challenge, a Lalafell comes running over. He has recognized Hammond and asked him for help. Apparently, some thugs are smuggling Somnus. Somnus is an illegal drug smuggled in the area around Ul'dah, very often by the Alacran, which are sort of like the Ul'dah Mafia. They are one of the bigger and stronger criminal forces in the area. The Lalafell has tried to report this to the Brass Blades, but they seem to ignore the issue, the main reason probably being that they are probably on the Alacra's payroll. So Hammond decides we will handle this ourselves, sending us and Choo-Choo out to investigate. We learn a few things. First of all, the Alacran are the ones usually smuggling the drug. There is also an abandoned Kikirin lair not too far from Coffer and Coffin that could be a good smuggling den. Finally, Choo-Choo has learned the silver-haired Lalafell has just recently left the station with a suspicious burden. We report all of this to Hammond, who instructs us to meet him near the smuggler den. At the smuggler den, we wait hiding with Hammond and Choo-Choo, and then we spot it. A group of Alacran wearing the very familiar purple robes if you watch my Gladiator video. And with them is no other than Ruru. Choo-Choo, being shocked to see her brother there, demands to know what he's doing, and we end up fighting his goons. And then Hammond steps forward, reminding them who he is, and telling them to come with him quietly. When Ruru suddenly steps in and reveals why he left that fateful night. He saw Hammond coming from a bar and encountering a critter, the same little beast he has with him now. We watch as the marmot goes up to Master Hammond, who tries to fight it and fails, landing not a single hit on it, but is knocked out cold instead. And with that, Ruru leaves us as we tend to our master with Choo-Choo. There, Master Hammond admits that he hasn't been beat by the marmot, but by old age. His reflexes and endurance have all left him, as he has become an old man. He sends us back to the guild, requesting to be left alone. I feel terribly sorry for him. So what does it matter if he isn't as strong or as fast anymore? It doesn't make him any less of a teacher. What makes him a very poor teacher is everything else he does, but it also makes him a rather endearing character. So we return to the guild, where Choo-Choo tells us Master Hammond has lost all will to teach, and whilst he might not agree with his actions, Choo-Choo wants to bring his strength and vigor back. So she teaches us a new move and bids us go train and return again in 5 levels. As Master Hammond seems to see himself in us, and if he sees us improving rapidly, maybe that might inspire him to once more be able to fight. We come back at level 20, stronger than ever, and sporting some safety goggles this time. Got to keep those eyes safe, we don't want to get stuck with an eye patch again. We try to speak to Hammond, but he sends us over to Choo-Choo, claiming he has nothing to teach us, or perhaps even never had anything to teach us. Thankfully, Choo-Choo has come up with a plan in our absence. We think it might help if we were to face the exact challenges Master Hammond faced in his youth. That way he'd better see himself in us. So, out in Eastern Thanalan, young Hammond used to train by punching some trees to rile up the hornets, and then he would fight them. We are to find these trees and do the same, bringing back some stingers to show Master Hammond. So off we head to Drybone and run to find those trees and return with stingers in hand. After beating up some wasps, of course. I knew those goggles would come in handy. Don't want to be stung in the eye. Proudly showing Master Hammond the stinger, he is indeed reminded of his younger days. And now asks to fight us, right here and right now, reinvigorating him. I don't know if this is a good idea. This man got beaten up by a marmot earlier. But alright. We do fight Master Hammond several times, with him getting stronger and stronger each round. At the end of the fight, he's feeling invigorated. But then we get a surprise guest. A group from the Alacran are here, being led by no other but Ubekfar. This man used to fight Hammond in the Colosseum, and with Ruru in tow, he has been told that now the Hammond who beat him once in the past has become old and feebled. So he has come to give Hammond a challenge, to fight him once more, like in the Colosseum, a public rematch, and the victor will take the Pugilist Guild. Hammond feels like he can't say no. So after the thugs leave, he tells us to train hard as he gets stronger as we get stronger. So off we go to train like we never trained before. We return at level 25, ready to do all we can to help Hammond keep the guild. He praises us on our growth, but has sadly thrown his back out, so Tututo will handle our training this day. He has decided the lesson will be outside Ul'dah today, as we are to go to Little Alamico, where the challenge awaits us. As we come there, we learn it's actually not a training for us, but training for Hammond. Our task is to set up several striking dummies in different dangerous places. This is to prepare Hammond training for the big showdown. We place the training dummies and return to Tututo, but as we are there, Ruru comes walking with several Alakan hounds, and he has come to kill us because he believes we will lead Master Hammond to his death by encouraging him to fight. So with Tututo's help, we fight him and the hounds, but by the end he reveals he has gotten in with the wrong crowd. But he can't do anything about it now. It's too late for him to get out of it. But he doesn't want to see Master Hammond get hurt or even killed in the fight against Vegvar. After Tututo reassures him that Hammond is going to be okay, Ruru leaves and we head back to the guild. There, Hammond vows to train as he plans to meet Vegvar in the fight no matter what. So he challenges us to do the same, train or else he will become better than us. So off we go for our final 5 levels of training. As we return for our final quest at level 30, we find Master Hammond in very good spirits. He has dutifully been training and hunting down those target dummies we put down. Now he wishes to face us again in a fight, this time at the Forgotten Springs, but according to him, there are some lovely Mikote ladies about. This man is always so classy, isn't he? Well, we meet him there, and they're immediately sent off to do some warm-up by killing some sandworms. He says he already warmed up, though I wonder if this is just a ploy to hang with the ladies for a moment. Still, lacking few sandworm is no big issue. As we return, Hammond tells us his plan. While he has regained most of his stamina, he needs to remember the order of the strikes. And in his mind, the best way to remember is with us beating the hell out of him. So, we of course oblige. Like before, we fight Master Hammond 3 times, where he gets progressively stronger each round. Though not enough to beat us. Still, this seems to have done the work, and he remembers the sequences now. And that is good, because as we finish, Tututo comes running, telling us Vegvar is in Ul'dah, demanding to get the fight going. So we rush back to face him. Back in Ul'dah, we meet up with Vegvar, where Hammond faces against him. Vegvar starts off sure of himself, not knowing how much Hammond has trained. But after being taken out in a single shot, he realizes he is outmatched. So he cheats, taking a drug called Pluto, which according to him renders the skin of the user hard enough to defend against even the sharpest of blades. He also calls in a lot of his supporters. In turn, we and Tututo join Hammond along with Ruru, who does not want to stay in the team of cheaters. And together we beat the ever-living hell out of the Alakran thugs in front of a very impressed crowd. After taking in the admiration, Hammond takes both Ruru and Tututo back to the guild. There we meet up with them once more. Ruru has been forgiven, and he now plans to travel the world to make a proper name for himself as a pugilist. Hammond gives him his blessing and then teaches us his most powerful technique. And with that we end our leveling experience as a pugilist. The next quest will unlock the storyline of the monk, but that has to wait for a future video. Thank you so much for watching this video. I do hope it was fun, either teaching you something or serving as an interesting trip down memory lane. Of the 2 neighbors in Ul'dah, which questline did you prefer? Do you like the pugilist, where we are helping an old master regain his strength? Or the gladiator, where we help 2 lovers reunite once again? I personally prefer the pugilist, because I think Master Hammond is just a very fun character. So the gladiator was alright. Next week, we are gonna change location and go to Limsa and check out the Marauder, the class where I get to wield a gigantic axe and beat up things with it. I think it's gonna be very fun. So if you want to make sure to see it, I highly recommend subscribing and pressing the notification bell. But for now, I hope you have a lovely day.